Hello and welcome to Rejoicing in Motherhood. I am Kirsten Vossler, a mom of 10, and I love being a mom. I am here to encourage, inspire, and equip you to thrive in motherhood and in life. Do you know what else I love? I love books. I love sitting down with a really good book and enjoying the story, enjoying the lessons that I'm learning. I love reading to my children. I love that they love to read too, some of them. And what I find, and perhaps you do too, is that sometimes it's hard to know what is going to be a good book, though, because everybody has a different idea of what that is going to be. And a lot of times, what I'm seeing out in the world or in the library is not what I want my kids reading. But I don't have time to read every single book that I give my kids because, like I said, my older kids especially, they love to read. They are voracious readers. They can plow through a series in a weekend. I don't have that kind of time to sit around and read and keep ahead of them. So what am I going to do? Well, today I have a special guest, and Michelle is here to talk to us about a wonderful solution to this problem. So if you also are wanting to bring good reading material into your home and you want books that are going to be honoring, books that are going to be telling the truth to your children about their identity, books that are presenting the gospel, and also books that are just fun to read that you can feel safe giving to your kids. Michelle from Mud Hen Mama is here to share with us all about her online bookstore. And she is offering a 10% discount to all Rejoicing in Motherhood listeners for a special online book fair that I am hosting for her. So listen to this episode. I think you're going to be really, really blessed. Michelle, welcome to Rejoicing in Motherhood. I'm so delighted to have you here today.
I'm very, very excited to be here, Kirsten. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us, Michelle, a little bit about yourself and your family.
Okay, so we have 10 kids, and I'm a grandma, which is insane, but my oldest is
Yay!
23, and I was actually pregnant when she and her husband got married. So that was a very unique situation. But so yeah, the baby's now about 2 months, which is very fun. And then our youngest is 2. So we have pretty much the entire scale of things, but just some interesting things about us, I guess, is that, besides that we have 10 kids, is we actually lived in Korea for 9 years. So we were, 4 of our children are actually born there, and no, they're not citizens. Everyone always asks that, if they're citizens, and, I'm always like, we just don't understand what we have in the United States. You don't automatically become a citizen just because you're born in a certain country. That's just the United States. But yeah, so our kids, especially our older ones, really loved and absorbed the culture there in Korea. It was a wonderful experience. But by the time we had number 6, we were ready to come back to the United States. It's a very, very crowded city. I mean, it's sort of like an Asian New York City is Seoul. That's where we were at. So, so that was definitely something that we were not necessarily planning on doing, is going to Korea when we were first married, but that's the Lord opened up doors and a few windows, and we ended up going to Seoul. And so so we were away from this. This sort of feeds into what we decided to do, what I'm doing right now. But so we were away, obviously, in international when our older kids were little. And by the time we ended up back in the United States, my oldest was in 7th grade and then pretty much down. And we just actually had number 7. So I wasn't really aware of a lot of the things that were happening in the United States. But when we came and, it's just because of the situation, my husband was actually a principal at an international Christian school in Korea. And then when we came here, he became a principal at a Christian school on the East Coast in New Jersey. And so because of that, then my kids, we actually did homeschool for a little bit. We homeschooled for about 1.5 years because we weren't sure what exactly we knew it was time for us to leave Seoul. but
Uh-huh.
we weren't sure where exactly we were going to land. So we decided that we were going to homeschool. I loved the experience. I really wanted to continue to homeschool, but the Lord took that off the table. And so our kids ended up being enrolled in the school that my husband was working at, it has turned out to be a huge blessing. But along with
Yeah.
that, then we found that there were, the school was using a Scholastic, just to be specific, I guess. And so we would get the flyers in. And at that time, there were no real red flags, except for the fact that I saw a lot of twaddle, to use a Charlotte Mason
Mm-hmm.
term. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, these books aren't necessarily going to be bringing my kids closer to the Lord. And just thought, what I just didn't like the books. And so I thought, that's, and it was also because I was off of the high of homeschooling and really loving the books and being able to, control more of what my children were actually reading and learning about. And so that was just something that was sort of in the back of my head. Like, I loved all these books that I was showing my kids and having my kids read.
Mm.
It would be so great if there was something like a Scholastic, but not. And that, we can have books like these that I know about, that I know a lot of Christian families don't know about, but would love to know about them. And
Yes.
so that was something that was sort of a seed that was planted in my head several years ago, because that was we came here so that was 2015, right around 2015. And so then we were here, we had our twins around 7 years ago. And then it was shortly after that, so around 2020 was when everything went nuts.
Yep.
And we really I guess I had been aware of a lot of things that were happening because of just my own personal interest in things. Like, I loved
Mm-hmm.
Vodi Bakum. I thought he was wonderful. He was actually, probably a big person that, helped me to just have homeschooling on my radar. And, he was such a
Yes.
huge advocate for that. And he was so wonderful. And he also spoke into a lot of things like the cultural issues that I could never really personally articulate that well, but I knew there was something
Mm.
weird about it. And I didn't, so I did know about some of that stuff that was happening. And I was aware of, this is how we need to approach a lot of these cultural things. But
Mm-hmm.
everything exploded in 2020. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't the church speaking out more about this stuff? Why aren't we able to articulate arguments against some of this stuff that's coming down the pike? So, initially it was just the not so great books. I always call them Cheetos for the brain, because that's exactly what they are. Just like the not so great. But then, then it was started being like, it's not just that it's not so great. It's actually like poison for our children. And what are we
Yes.
doing here? There's something wrong. And so that was when, I really thought, okay, I think I need to really start trying to actually do this business. And I started off Mud Hen Mama with, it was only about, maybe, honestly, probably 50 books, I don't even remember, but it wasn't very many books.
Yeah.
And just trying to have something I was, initially just trying to get good books for children, but then, it was always on my mind to get books for the entire family because of everything that was happening culturally. I thought, we need to
Yeah.
be able to empower parents to be able to navigate the current cultural moment that we're in a biblical way. And
Yes.
because things weren't being spoken about in church, we need to figure out a way to reach families so that they just know what to do or what to even think. Or, I mean, often I think a lot of families didn't even realize that there was all this stuff going. I mean, it was sort of hard to ignore some of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but some of the things I think, a lot of people are like, it's going to blow over. It's going to be fine. But I don't think that's the case. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's so important that we're, obviously giving our kids good books to read, but we also have to give parents good things to read. And so,
Yes.
that was sort of that's how we ended up, that was the beginning anyway of Mud Hen Mama. And so we're still, trying to do that today. So we started off reaching out to a lot of Christian schools all across the United States. And, but we also really think that, homeschoolers would be very, very blessed by what we're doing. And because we do have that spread of ages, as you can completely resonate with, like you have, when you have a lot of kids,
Yes.
you've been around the block a time or two, you've read a gazillion books. And so that's really helpful just to know, okay, this is what these kids like, and this is what these kids like.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we're able to pick out books that, that really a lot of the kids really enjoy. And even,
Yes.
it's funny because I've had a couple books that my kids, they initially turn their nose up to. And then I say, no, you have to read this book if you want XYZ. And so they end up reading the book, and of course they come away with, it was a good book. I'm glad I read that book. And
Yes.
so, it's just, but it's important that we do this, like not just throw books at them or have them pick out their own books, because I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how it's just dangerous. Like we could have said that maybe 15 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago, but not
Yeah.
anymore. It's just, you're really, um, just setting your kids up to question a lot of things, or just
Mm-hmm.
even, or maybe, and maybe not even question, but also just accept things that aren't necessarily good for them, and just normalizing things that
Yes.
aren't good for them. And so that's what, so yeah, so Mudhen Mama is really just about helping families to be able to have a resource and say, okay, I know I can go here and get some great books, not just for my kids, but also for myself, and just to, to be a blessing to the body of Christ.
Yes, that is so awesome. So tell us about the specifics of what Mud Hen Mama is and how it works.
Okay, so Mudhen Mama, I mean, it's pretty simple, because you just go, you can go visit Mudhen Mama and mudhenmama.com, and you could just click on the shop books button, and it'll take you to all of the books. We have pre-K all the way through adult. So we have it curated that way, but we also have different tags so that you can also look for autobiographies or biographies, Christian autobiographies,
Mm,
mysteries, different series, because yeah, so it just makes it a little bit easier to be able to find good books. But something else that
yes.
we're actually trying to promote right now is Family Book Savings Club. And what that
Yeah.
is you can go and sign up for a membership, and we have it for different age groups. So whether you have your littles that just want picture books, or if you have a little bit older and young adult. We have young adult because it sounded a little weird to say adult books. We're
Oh,
like,
right.
that's not what we're going for. So we have it as young adults. But so that's just for if you have, like, if for yourself, if you can consider yourself a young adult no matter what age you are. And yeah, and get some great books. So whether that's, if you wanted to have classic books, or if you wanted to have cultural books, you can, we can
Yeah.
curate that for you, or we can, help make it personal so that you can actually choose the books that would fit best your family. And then
Yeah.
you would get it once a month, and you don't have to worry about it. And, so we save hours of searching online to see, whether or not these books are good or bad or whatever. And also it's saving you money. So with each increase, so if you get one membership, it's 10% off. But if you have increasing up to 3 or more memberships, so, different age groups or whatever, then you have a 20% off discount for every month that you're on, and you can cancel anytime. So that's pretty much Mudhen Mama.
Yeah. That is so
Yeah.
cool. So it's online bookstore essentially, but all the books are
Yeah.
are curated to be biblically sound, to be, honoring and honorable, and they're not all Christian books, right? You have like a whole variety, but
Right.
they're
Yes.
specifically
Yes. Thank
have
you for
like
pointing
good
that out.
morals. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is just having it, like you said, they're not all going to be preaching specifically the gospel,
Hmm.
but they are going to be sharing something that's good, beautiful, and true. That was our
Love
standard.
that.
So if, we want to make sure that, that the kids are getting, and all of us are getting good stuff that's going to make them think, and that's going to make them learn something good, rather
Hmm.
than something that's going to be undermining. Because we can learn a lot from, obviously, so there's so many wonderful books, so many classics that aren't necessarily preaching the
Yes.
gospel, but like I said, but they are sharing something that is true, or good or beautiful. And we know that all of those things, truth and beauty and goodness, all come from God. And so we can trust that, those are not going to be undermining. And so there are a lot of books that are a little bit older, but we also have contemporary
Hmm.
books. It's just that we have to, comb through those with a fine tooth comb, because there are so many books
Yes.
that unfortunately, there are a few series that start off super great, fun, kids love them, and then, you know, a character is thrown in there for zero reason, and it's a LGBTQ character that adds nothing, but the author is trying to do is just make it more, just to normalize it. And that's
Hmm.
something that is just very confusing to a child. I know that we had a series, I always forget, the Dragon Masters. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Wings of Fire. Dragon Masters is another set of series of books that it's the same issue. But Wings of Fire, I think she must have been probably 12 or 13. She was reading the series, loved the series. Then she came across one of the books, and she said, "Mom, is this what I think it is?" And I looked at it and I had to read it a couple times. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why is this even in here?
Yeah.
And I just was like, yeah, you're gonna have to give that book away. Like, you can't finish reading it just because I know that the reality is that we live in a world where that is prevalent.
Hmm.
However, we don't have to live in a world where we have to accept it and say, well, that's a good thing. And
Hmm.
so I think, we just have to be careful on how we're presenting certain things, because, for example, we have this, I love this pro-life book. It's a book for children, and it talks about abortion. And
Mm.
because I think that if we don't present these things to our kids, if we don't talk
Yes.
to our kids about these things, then the culture will,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
absolutely.
And it's
Yep.
not going to be in a way that is edifying at all. And it will
Hmm.
be undermining to our convictions. And so,
Yes.
the pro-life, that pro-life book which it's by the Radiance Foundation. It's actually like a picture book, but it talks about abortion. It's not as if, because I think so often I mean, I understand this, because I don't want my kids to necessarily know all of the ugly things that are out there in this world. But
Right.
again, if we don't talk about it, they're going to be exposed to it one way or another.
Hmm.
So they do talk about abortion, and they say, this is a killing of an unborn life, but they present it in a way that's not gruesome. It doesn't have any, like,
Hmm.
gross details or anything, but it tells the truth. And it says, that it's just teaching kids that, they're saying that that's not a human, just like they said it wasn't a human to be black,
Mm.
years ago, 100 years ago or whatever. And how they said the same thing to Jews 50 years or however
Yeah.
many years ago. And so I think it just presents it in a way that's the way that you talk to your child about these difficult things. So whether that's
Yes.
abortion or gender ideology, and making sure our kids understand, some people are confused, but we don't have to be confused. And we
Hmm.
love them best by teaching them truth and sharing truth, rather than just letting it go and just saying, oh, well, we want to be nice. Well,
Yes.
nice isn't necessarily the best way, and it's not biblical. I think Vodi
No.
was the one who initially said this, is that, thou shalt be nice is not the 11th commandment. We can't
Mm.
stand on that.
Yes.
We have to stand on truth. So anyway, so that's what the books
That's
are.
right.
That's what we're trying to have on our site. And we have, yeah, just books that, that you don't have to worry about. I mean, there are going to be things in there, like I said, like the abortion, the pro-life book. And so there are going to be topics that might be difficult, but they're going to be coming from a biblical worldview. And so that was the
Hmm.
purpose. And that's what we were trying to cover, whether that's from, obviously we have more in-depth things for the adults, but we also cover some of those topics for children, because we really think it's just so important to do that.
It really is. I mean, I'm very passionate about being the first one to talk to my kids about all of these issues, right? And
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you're probably doing the same thing with your family of just because there's that this they call it the rule of first mention. Like whoever talks about it first is basically becomes the authority in our children's minds. And so if we're going to pass our values along to them, we need to be the ones that are telling them the truth first before they get
Hmm.
exposed to it in the world, which is getting earlier and earlier and earlier these days. And
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. And I'm so thankful that there's a resource like this because, I mean, honestly, we have pretty much stopped going to the library, partially for this very reason that I have 10 kids too. And it's like, how am I going to keep track of all of these kids? And my kids are voracious readers. They love to read. They're constantly like, Mom, what else can I read? What can I, what else can I? And it's hard to keep in front of them.
Hmm.
um, and yet I'm like, I don't want to just take you to the library and turn you loose and be like, go find something, because I don't trust that people who are curating the library have my kids' best interest and have truth in mind. So
Yeah.
I think it is so important to have resources like Mud Hen Mama that are helping us, facilitating us parents who are busy and distracted and just have so much else going on. It's like I don't have time to
Yes.
read 10 books a week to get ahead of my children that I can then hand these off and be like, here, this will be uplifting for you. This is full of truth. So
Right.
I'm thankful for this. So tell me, like, how do you guys vet these out? Do you actually do you sit down and read them all? Like, how are you collecting these books?
Well,
Obviously,
we've,
there are going to be some, like you said, like if there's a lot of older ones that are going to
yeah.
be pretty safe in and of
Yeah.
themselves.
For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, and we have read, we haven't read, I think right now we're over 2,600 titles. So we haven't read
Wow.
all of them. Yeah. Praise God for that. We haven't read all of them. However, we do go through each and every book. And,
Yes.
whether that's, I've actually gotten a ton of book lists from whether that's like a classical Christian school
Mm-hmm.
or from a homeschooling mom or,
Mm-hmm.
that I know have values that are similar to mine.
Yes.
Then those are the ones that are going to be on my radar. And then I'll go through and I'll make sure, like, and I mean, if I'm not sure about it, like if I haven't read
Yeah.
it or I haven't heard about it, then, what I end up doing often is I'll go to Goodreads or, we'll go to Amazon and actually, because that's, well, I'm trying to help people have an alternative to Amazon. However,
Yeah.
right now, that's where there's a lot of information on
Mm-hmm.
some of these books. And so, that has been very helpful, is to go and look at the 1-star reviews and see, okay, why is there a 1-star and what is it trying to communicate? Because sometimes it's a little nebulous,
Mm-hmm.
like what they're trying to say, but you sort of can read between the lines and say, oh, okay, there's something weird here. Like, I'm not going to. So
Yeah.
if it's questionable, we really try not to have it on. But we also do want to be as inclusive as possible in the sense of, if it's something that we know is going to be uplifting in some way, but it may have something like, I don't know, it may have, I don't want to say a cuss word, like I know somebody, I mean, I was so embarrassed because somebody had said that, well, there's the D word in it. And I thought it was a different D word. And it was actually damn. And I
Oh.
just felt it was so funny because I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not at all what I didn't understand what she was saying. But, so like there might be those books like
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're going to include that book because it's not
Right.
that big of it, especially if it's for older kids. But generally speaking,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's going to have like what we're more concerned about is something that's going to be undermining and that is trying to teach something that
Mm-hmm.
is, that is conflicting with the biblical worldview. So
Yes.
that's what we're
That's good.
concerned about. And so if it's at all giving that vibe or giving that, an indication in that direction, then we don't include it. But
Yeah.
that's generally speaking how we've been able to find. And also, there's a wonderful website and it's called screenitfirst.com.
Hmm.
That's also been very helpful. And what that is I highly recommend everyone go on it and just check it out. They're still trying to fill in books but what it is that there are actually no written reviews. It's actually crowdsourced. So you
Okay.
go onto the website and you could see screenshots of the different books that have questionable material. So whether that's
Oh, so you can
violence,
evaluate it for yourself and
you
your
right.
kids or yeah. That's cool.
Exactly. So it's great because sometimes violence for one child may not really be a big deal, but for another
Hmm.
child, it would be really bad to include it.
Yeah.
So that I think could be helpful for a lot of families. That's also a really helpful resource that we have used in the past because things come up and it could be helpful to have that perspective as well. So
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Okay, let's talk about the name Mud Hen Mama because you have a whole explanation of it on your website, and I just thought it was
I
so
do.
great. I just want to hear it from
Yes.
you.
Yes. So I had mentioned I was homeschooling. I did homeschool for a little bit. And so, I had this set of books that were sitting on my shelf for forever, for several years. And, so I guess just to back it up. So I was trying to think, okay, what in the world am I going to name this business? I really wanted to, I had a vision for it and everything, but all of the names didn't sound right or the names were taken and I was having such a hard time. So I was praying and praying about it. And the Lord brought to mind those set of books that I had. And so I pulled them out and I remember they were about different characteristics that animals had that reflected God in some way. And
Cool.
so I opened up the first book and it was flipping through and I found the American Coot. And I thought, that's interesting. So the American Coot, the nickname for it is a mud hen. And so what they do to fend off, whenever they feel threatened, they would come together and squawk at the enemy. And I thought that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get us all together and to be able to recognize where the enemies are and to like give
Mm.
attention to it and to like squawk at what is attacking us and what's going to harm our children. And so that's why I thought, that's a good name and it's an unusual name that hopefully people will remember. So, and I'm a mom, so that's why I thought Mud Hen Mama would be a good name for it.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, I'm really excited because we're through Rejoicing in Motherhood, we're going to be running an online book fair with
Yes.
Mud Hen Mama. So, can you
Mm-hmm.
tell the audience a little bit about how that works so we can
Yeah.
understand and get going on that?
Yeah. So what that is, there's I'm assuming you'll probably have it in your notes, right? The
Yes.
website address, but it's going to be rejoicingmotherhood.mudhenmama.com. Super easy to find. And so you'll just go on and what's nice is that you can order from anywhere in the United States, won't matter where, and if it will be $6 shipping charge if you end up purchasing under $50, but if it's over 50 or more dollars, we'll send it to you for free shipping. And there's
Amazing.
also going to be a 10% discount. You just have to remember to add the discount code, the coupon code rejoicing. And yeah, and then you can have your look at all of the books. Like I mentioned, we have over 2,600 titles right now on the site. And yeah, you can order I can't remember now. I think it's the 7th. Is that right? The 7th
Yeah,
through
I
the
think we
16th?
said yes, the 7th through the 16th is going to be the
Okay.
dates for the book fair and it's all
Mm-hmm.
online. So yes, like Michelle said, you can order from anywhere in the US. And do you do international as well or just US?
No,
Just
just
US.
US
Okay.
for right
Okay,
now.
so
Yeah.
that's so great. I'm excited because this is going to be wonderful to like begin a little like even pre-Black Friday shopping.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
get some good quality books under the Christmas tree this year.
Yes, because it's a blessing to have books. And for some kids, it's super exciting to get a book. But even if your child may not be super excited about it, they can be. And it's one of those things you just sort of it's like a flywheel, right? Just have to get them started, and then
Yes.
once they're started, they will enjoy the book. I mean, that has happened a million times over in our family because we have
Yes.
a few, few kids, usually the girls, that are ferocious readers, and then the boys are a little bit more reluctant. And so, we have to push them along. But as soon as we do, they of course, they really enjoy the books. And it's just, I know one thing that we've tried to do is to have them read a few books on different missionaries or, different
Hmm.
people who have come before us. And I think it's so helpful just to be able to get them to understand what Christianity is, what courage looks like, because right
Yes.
now, we're so comfortable in the United States. And, when you read about all these other people that are out there that have, either they have passed away or they're older and they've been missionaries all over the world. Like it's really amazing it's eye-opening, I think, for them. And I think it's helpful to get their head on straight, like, oh, well, this is what persecution could possibly look like. And this is how people before me have navigated that, and how maybe in the future, I don't know, even to be thankful for what we have, but also just to be aware of what it could be, I guess. I know my 10-year-old, he just read, I think it's With Open Hands is the name of the book, but it's about missionaries that went to Ethiopia. He was a little sparse on the details, but he did say that there were all these miracles that happened that should never have happened. And I just think that's so powerful. Even if that's all he remembers about it, God is so big and he's so good. And he, where he sends you, even if it is scary. I know one of my friends, I'll never forget this. She said, the safest place to be is in the middle of God's will.
Absolutely.
And that's just a testimony of that. So many of these stories of missionaries that have come before. So we have a bunch of those books as well. I mean, we also have like the, more, like I mentioned before, popular books that aren't necessarily preaching the gospel. But, I do think it's important that, we have the books that do specifically preach the gospel, and also books that demonstrate the gospel, such as these missionary books that are just beautiful, and they're so encouraging and fun, and maybe not necessarily fun. That might not be the right way to phrase it, but just encouraging and
interesting.
Yeah, fascinating, right? Because it's from all over. So yeah.
Well, I know when I was about 11, my spiritual life was changed by reading a missionary story, and so I have high value for reading biographies and missionary stories because it challenged me to fully surrender every part of my life to the Lord when I was 11. I mean, I was already a Christian. I had already been saved, but it just took it to a totally different level because I read about her commitment and her devotion to the Lord, and then her ministry that she eventually started, bringing others onto the mission field. And one of their requirements for missions was that people be unconditionally surrendered to the Lord. And I just remember being so impacted by that as a little girl and being like, would I be willing to be unconditionally surrendered to God? And it just hit me in such a different way than somebody preaching about it or my parents talking to me about it. It just, because I was reading it and seeing her life play out in this story. One of the most valuable things we can give our children is these true stories, these stories about, people who love and serve God, because it gives them such a good example. And it's so encouraging, and they're so interesting. Wow, what
fascinating.
What are they doing now? What are they experiencing? How is it different from my life and all of that?
Yeah,
so
for sure. So even for adults, I think it's important that, because obviously we have those missionary stories for kids, which are so important to expose our kids to. But it's also important for us as adults to be able to know, like, oh wow, like this is so. I think we could, when we've been believers for a long time, it's easy to just sort of put it on neutral and just, sort of coast. And I think it's important to have those challenging books that make us think and make us realize, like, wow, like these people are on fire for Jesus, and what can I do to honor him today, even in the smallest way, just like maybe not having a bad attitude or something. I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a big deal, but it's just something that can help us put things in perspective. And so, I know it's hard for me sometimes to read, we both have a lot of kids. It's hard, at the end of the night, it's like the last thing you want to do is to read, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and you just, little by little, it's amazing what you can read, just a couple pages a night. And, I've been able to read quite a bit just doing that.
Well, I'm so excited for this book fair and for all that you're doing. So tell us where you are on social media as well. And we'll be sure to have all the links in the show notes so everybody can easily find all these things.
Yes. Well, it's very easy, except for I don't know, for whatever reason, mama is spelled 500 different ways. So we'll make sure everything is very much as you would think, but it's Mudhen Mama. So it's MUDHENMAMA.com. But you can find, if you just look up Mudhen Mama, you'll be able to find me.
I have one final question for you, just a fun one before we end. And that is, what is bringing you joy in motherhood these days?
Oh, I think Oh, there's a lot of things. I'm so blessed. I don't know why I could cry about it. Some, like when I think about my daughter, she's 2 and it's just so fun. Like it's so cute with like even hearing her say, I love you, mommy. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so like you hear it from your older kids and they're like, love you, mom. Like, and not that that's beautiful, but like, it's just so sweet when they're learning how to talk and you can snuggle with them and they're finally reciprocating after, driving you crazy for 2 years.
So sweet.
No, but they're just so sweet. And I say that I've always had I've had a hard time when I was younger. I would always think, oh, why would anyone have a lot of kids? Like, I mean, that was the mentality that I grew up with. And so,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what I know now, that like, yeah, I'm not going to lie and say motherhood is it's super easy and fun, but but it is fun. It can be fun. And it's such a blessing. It's one of those things that's just like, it's just so fulfilling and so meaty and so
Mm-hmm.
complicated, but it's so beautiful. And that's God too, right? I mean, so I think just just hanging out with my daughter, having her sit on my lap and I'm reading and it's so fun. And of course, I can't wait to see my granddaughter, it's just wild that I have to say that she's my granddaughter. It's,
Yes.
I think joy doesn't stop too. Like, we have the joy of
Mm-hmm.
our own children, but it's just, it's only God can, I mean, like truly overflow our cup and it's overflowing because now I have like my first little grandbaby that, I didn't have to birth.
I know. I
And it's
know. That's
wonderful.
so exciting. Well, thank you, Michelle, so much for all that you've shared today. And like I said, everybody, the links will be in the show notes. So just go check those out. Yeah, we'll get some good books in our homes. So
Hopefully.
thank
Yes. Thank you
you.
so much.